Shalom Aleichem, Mishnah Yomi for Erev Shabbat Bamidbar continues in our second day of Bava Kama and Seder Nezikin. So we are in Bava Kama chapter 1, Mishnah 3, Shum Kesef. The evaluation is in money. The Mefarshim point out that the Mishnayot here are a little bit cryptic, a little bit terse. If you're feeling that way, you're not alone. Our Mefarshim for thousands of years have been making the same comment. What this means is the assessment of damages is done in money. And this excludes a case where maybe Reuven has an animal that broke Shimon's kli, and then Shimon left his blanket out in the road, and Reuven's animal tripped over it, broke a leg. You might say, well, they'll just get together and say, we'll call it even. But no, we actually assess the damages, and even if one of them is owed $99 and one of them is owed $100, we're going to make it right with the specific amount of damage that happened. Vishavik kesef. And the evaluation can be in something worth money. And the Gemara explains, when the mazik, the damager or responsible party, is still alive, he can pay using land, he can pay using produce, he can pay using cash. But if he passes away, then the victim can only collect from his heirs, from the Yorshim, only land. And land is called shavik kesef, something that's worth money, but it's not movable and inherently, used for payment like money and other items can be. Bifnei Beit Din, the assessment must be made in court. V'al pi edim b'nei chorin b'nei brit. And the witnesses to the damage, the testimony, must come from free people who are Jewish. V'hanoshim biklol hanezik. And women are included in the laws of damages. A comment that we made back in Nashim, an overall theme, is that if you look at ancient legal systems, lahavdil, there's no comparison between halacha, Jewish law, which is living and breathing for thousands of years, and those systems they used in Babylonia 4,000, 5,000 years ago. If you compare them, in many of those systems, women were considered to be property. And in Jewish law, women could typically read and write, they could own property, they could get Yerusha, they could make claims in court. So there's a huge difference. There's no comparison between women in Jewish law and women in other ancient legal systems who were Nebuch had a bad shape, had a bad situation most of the time. So women in Jewish law are equally responsible to men. They're expected to take care of their property, to take care of their animals, and make sure no one gets hurt. And of course, if they get hurt, they are entitled to full restitution. Mishnah goes on, vehanizak v'mozik b'tashlumin. And sometimes the victim, the nizak, and the damager, the responsible mazik, are both in payment. The Gemara explains this is a case where one animal kills another one. Reuven's animal kills Shimon's animal. And Shimon waits a few days to sue Reuven, and originally the carcass of Shimon's animal was worth, $200, but now by the time you get on the lawsuit, it's only worth $50 because it's nevela, and these things don't, they have a shelf life. Come move on, they have a shelf life. So he can't really hold that against the mazik, because if he had sued him right away and sold the nevela or taken care of it right away and sold it and tried to get whatever money he could from the nevela, from the deceased animal, there'd be less damages. So you can't hold that against the mazik. Let's go on to Mishnah Dalit. Mishnah Dalit introduces us to a very important concept of tam versus muad. Now, tam means innocent or simple or non-dangerous, like Yaakov ish tam, Yoshev Ohalim. Muad would be his brother Esav. Muad is something that's warned, that it's considered to be dangerous. There's a history there. So Mishnah Dalit starts, Hamisha tamin v'chamisha muadin. There are 5 situations an animal is tam, and 5 things that are always muad. They're always considered warned. Now, the nafkamina here is, if an animal does something that a tam is not supposed to do, he's not supposed to be goring or kicking over things on purpose, that's not really normal animal behavior. So the first 3 times, we're going to see the damages are different. It'll be chatzi nezek, half of the actual damages, but after 3 times, it's muad. It's in the habit of doing so, and it will be paying full damages, as we will explain. So the Mishnah first lists the cases of tam. Habahena eina muedet, lo ligach. It's not normal for an animal to be goring, that's striking with horns. Lo liguf, to push with the body, push someone up against the wall, like Bilam's donkey did. That's not normal. Lo lishuch, or to bite something. And this is to bite to draw blood, not to bite to eat. Lo lirbots, not to sit on something to break it. Lo livot, and not to kick something, just to hurt it or break it. Animals, we saw, they do kick things in the normal course of walking, but that's not on purpose. Now, the Mishnah lists 5 situations that are always muad, so the mazik, the responsible party, will always pay full damages, even during the first occurrence. Hashain, the tooth, meaning an animal eating something for its hunger. Mu'edet lechol et lo. It's considered muad to eat something that's normally eaten. So if it eats someone else's crops, you pay full damages. If it eats somebody's necktie, that's considered tam, that's not normal. Haregel mu'edet l'shaber b'derech hilucha. Regil, which means legs, but it means the animal's walking and it bumps into things or it kicks up stones while it's walking. That's pretty normal and common. Vishor hamuad, a shore that's been warned, an ox that's been warned 3 times. Really, they're warning the owner of the ox to take extra precautions. We always have to lock up our animals at night and, put a fence around the grazing and put them back in the barn when you're done. But as shor muad, you need to be extra careful. Because it has a habit of causing damage. So it's been warned 3 times, the owner's warned 3 times, it's now shor muad. V'shor mazik b'rshut hanizak, and an animal that does damage in somebody else's property. So if you brought your shore into somebody else's yard and it did damage, even if it hadn't been muad, it would pay full damages. Now, the Gemara explains that's really Rabbi Tarfon's opinion. The other sages do disagree with this. V'ha adam, and a person, anything a person does is considered he's already been warned. There are no 3 strikes or 3 chances. This is a concept we're going to see more in Bava Kama, in the second parak, etc., called Adam Muad Le'olam. Human beings are always warned against causing damage, even if they're asleep. So if somebody lays down to take a nap next to a delicate porcelain vase, and he rolls over while he's asleep and kicks it and breaks it, he has to pay for it, even though he was asleep. He should have taken a look around before he lay down to go to sleep. There's an amazing Rashi in the Gemara, the Bava Kama, Beis Amud Beis. And it's the Rashi, the first Rashi in the wide lines, and they're talking about how people are different than animals. People are different because Adam de Islay Mazal. People have Mazal. Now, regularly we translate Mazal as luck or fortune, but Rashi here says, Sheyesh lo dat. He has intellectual awareness, lishmor et gufo, to be careful with his body, meaning not to break things. So the common understanding of Mazal being something outside yourself, out of your control. Okay, with tefillah and mitzvot, you can get better Mazal, of course. But Rashi here, in this context, says Mazal is also something you could be intellectually aware, attuned to your circumstances and the people around you. That's also a form of Mazal that you can actually work on, and people are expected to do so. So that's an important Rashi right in the beginning of the Gemara Bava Kama. Let's get back to the Mishnah. Hazev, the wolf, Ha'ari, the lion, Hadov, the bear, the namer, and this is like a leopard, the habardalis, a wild hyena, the hanahash, the snakes, hare elu muadin. These are always muad, so if you have a pet snake, it also does not get 3 chances. Rabbi Eliezer says, Bizman shehen b'nei tarbut, ein muadim. If they've become trained and domesticated, like in Russia, they train these bears, and typically it works, not always. So Rabbi Eliezer says, yeah, you could train them, but a snake, you can never train a snake. And that goes back to Adam and Chava in the garden. You just can't train a snake. Halacha is actually not like Rabbi Eliezer, so if you keep wild animals at home, not a typical Jewish thing, but you would be completely liable for all the damages they do. The Mishnah concludes, Ma bein tam lemuad. We've been talking about tam, innocent, and warned, muad. What's the difference financially? Elisha tam mishalem chatzi nezik migufo. If an animal does something tam that's not typical, that wasn't its practice to do, then the owner pays half of the damages and pays up to the value of the animal, migufo, up to the value of that animal, not more. The muad, but once it's been warned, or it's one of these inherently dangerous situations, or a person, mishalem nezik shalem mina aliyah, then the owner has to pay complete damages and from the best of his property. Yashar kol hachem, good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom.